Florian Wirtz and Jamal Musiala, two of the hottest prospects in European football. Absolutely sensational talents, both 21 years old, and both are ready to rip it up. If they've not already, I mean, God knows what the future holds for these two players, because they are absolutely sensational talents, and both have been linked with Manchester City as of late, with £200 million war chest sat waiting in the wings for Manchester City to just pop the key in, open it up, open the lid, and boosh, 200 million splashed on Florian Wirtz and Jamal Musiala. The likeliness of us getting both, I can't see it, to be honest. I mean, it's a conversation for another day, but how would you fit them in? How would you fit both players in with Phil Foden? I'm not too sure, to be honest, but it would be an absolutely sensational midfield if you can, and there's one man that could do it and would love to do it, and that's Pep Guardiola. Musiala's the player that's been heavily linked with Manchester City as of late. Seems a little bit more likely with the off-the-field scenario as well from Musiala. I think there's a contract terms as well. It sounds a little bit more likely. Wirtz a little less likely. But you just never know. With Manchester City not spending that much as of late, you just never know. So what I wanted to do was a deep dive, a statistical deep dive. So prepare yourself, because I'm going to go deep, balls deep into this statistical comparison. And now this is going to be the club comparison, Bundesliga, domestic cups, and Champions League, of course. So I'm going to just keep it at that. No national football is going to be compared between these two players, and I'm going to compare it in categories as well. So you've got your basic stats, shooting stats, passing stats, possession stats, and defensive stats as well. And I'm going to give each category a one score, 1 point to each player, whichever one gets the better stats out of the two in that category. And at the end, see who wins. That's the fairest way to do this. Let's start with the basic stats of Wirtz versus Musiala. Minutes is the first thing I want to point to you straight away, which is why the majority of these stats that you're going to see are going to be per 90 minutes, because Wirtz played a lot more minutes, 3,400 to his name, compared to Musiala's 2,800. But I mean, 18 goals and 19 assists for Florian Wirtz, regardless of minutes, by the way, is absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous numbers to be putting on the board as a 21-year-old in a Bundesliga title-winning side. There's no wonder they won the league. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely sensational. A little less so from Musiala in the assist column in particular, but I mean, less minutes, so let's compare the per 90 minutes. Goals, similar, not too far apart, not too dissimilar. Assists is where Musiala really starts to drop per 90 minutes at 0.19 compared to pretty much 0.5. Every other game, there's an assist from Musiala. G&A, goal involvement per 90 minutes, pretty much a goal involvement per game from Wirtz, whereas Musiala is almost every other game. Fantastic. Identical XG per 90 minutes. But this is an interesting one for me, because the expected assists per 90 minutes is what you'd expect to see from Florian Wirtz, but Musiala is not far behind at all with 0.27, whereas the actual assists was miles apart with 6 to his name and 19, and assists per 90 minutes as well was miles apart, but the expected assists very, very similar. So that tells a different story. That tells a story that Musiala was actually doing his job, and what's surprising about that is Harry Kane is in this team. So with a team that contains Harry Kane, someone's not doing their job, because Musiala's doing his. He's getting the expected assists, or at least very similar to Florian Wirtz. Someone's not putting it in the back of the net frequently enough. He's doing his job. So I wouldn't read too much into the lack of assists from Musiala, especially with an Erling Haaland up front. I like to think that XA would stay the same, but the actual assists will go much higher for Musiala. Still, though, ultimately, Wirtz is comfortably winning in this department here. But I mean, minutes has played a part, I understand that, but you can't ignore the goal involvement per 90 minutes, which is 1 goal involvement per game from Florian Wirtz. Absolutely sensational. Right, moving on. Shooting stats, your basic stuff at the beginning, 18 to 12, 102 shots to 89 shots from Musiala. Again, lack of minutes for Musiala, but still 48% shots on target from Wirtz, which is almost 50% of his shots pretty much on target, which is sensational. He likes to have a pop, clearly, because he's had 102 shots. Musiala also likes to have a shot, because shots per 90 minutes, he actually shoots the ball more often than Florian Wirtz does. But his shot percentage on target drops down quite a bit lower than Florian Wirtz, in fact. So not quite as accurate as Florian Wirtz. Shots on target per 90 minute, over a shot on target per game from Florian Wirtz, whereas Musiala is just under a shot on target per game. Goals per shot, not too dissimilar, again 0.16 to 0.13, but what I love about this one as well is the average distance, and this is in yards, of their shots, just outside the box for Florian Wirtz. He likes to have a pop on the edge of the box or just outside it, 0.4 yards to be precise, just outside, whereas Musiala likes to get in the box before he has a shot. I prefer a player that is not afraid to have a shot outside the box. I don't think we've got enough of them at Manchester City. Obviously, De Bruyne and Foden, Rodri occasionally, but I like a player that's not afraid to have a shot. And to maintain the shot accuracy with the shooting distance being further out, impressive. Free kick goals, 1 to Musiala, 0. 2 penalty kick goals for Wirtz to, again, Musiala, 0. I've got to give it Wirtz again, because, I mean, ultimately it's that shots on target and the shots on target per 90 as well is ultimately higher, and he got more goals out of the situation as well, and he's a set-piece taker as well, so I've got to give it Wirtz. 2-0 to Florian Wirtz. Can you believe it? Right, moving on to passing stats. Now, passing completion, very, very similar, 0.2 difference between the two. Total distance, though, this is any direction on the pitch, as in your total distance in yards, again, per 90 minutes, 766 yards average per game, compared to Musiala, over 300 yards less than Florian Wirtz per 90 minutes. Now, the progressive distance per 90 minutes is how far the ball moves forward. So, total distance is side to side, back to front, any direction you want, your 360 of the pitch. Whereas progressive distance has to be a minimum of 40 yards forward, which indicates how difficult the pass will be. And what a risk-taking passer is what that indicates. Again, Florian Wirtz, quite a distance more than Musiala with 215 yards per 90 minutes. Progressive distance, so he's over 100 yards more. Again, that's aggressive. That's a risk-taking passer, and that's successful passes as well, mind you. Then through balls per 90 minutes, Wirtz. Let's quicken it a little bit, because I could be here all day reading these, but I mean it's fascinating to see the insight between the two. Switches across the pitch per 90 minutes. Wirtz again edging over Musiala. Crosses per 90 minutes, massively different. Huge difference. So that's a real indication of the style of play. Musiala definitely tends to cut inside, and he doesn't cross the ball anywhere near to the level of Florian Wirtz, who loves a cross. I like to think a lot of that is because he takes the corners for Bayer Leverkusen. So that definitely, he's a set-piece taker. That's a tick in the Wirtz box for me. But Florian Wirtz crosses per 90 minutes, nearly 2 per game. Absolutely brilliant. Key passes. Again, Wirtz edges it with 3-2 versus Musiala. And then into the final third, really getting into the detail of how aggressive these two players are in their risk-taking of a pass. 3.8 into the final third per 90 minutes compared to Musiala's 2.36 into the final third. And then into the penalty area, even riskier at losing the ball. 3.27 to Musiala's 1.85. It's 3-0. He's getting a bit of a beating in Musiala, but not embarrassingly so, because his numbers are fantastic. It's just Wirtz is just another level, clearly, in that particular season. I do want to highlight that Musiala was in a lesser team, lesser performing team at least. The players are still there, but that's the defence of Musiala. So the defence of Wirtz, Musiala was part of that team. So the lesser performing team, you can't remove Musiala's responsibility from that team because he was part of that team. So it's a tough one to work out why Musiala is so much lower than Wirtz, but for me, Wirtz 3-0. Right, onto possession. Touches per 90 minutes. Heavily involved. Florian Wirtz, way more involved in the game than Musiala is, with 84 touches per 90 minutes compared to Musiala's 53. Brilliant total distance there. Take on attempts per 90 minutes is 5.79 per 90 minutes to Musiala's 7.2. So great from Musiala. He likes to take on a player. Here we go. Musiala's stats are starting to beat Florian Wirtz. So his take-on ability, his dribbling ability seems to be better, certainly at beating a player, than Florian Wirtz. Successful take-ons per 90 minutes. comfortably ahead of Florian Wirtz. So that's obviously an area of Musiala's game that's much stronger, beating a player. But do we need that? Do we need that in the midfield? It's a nice addition to your game. There's no two ways about it. And by the way, Florian Wirtz's numbers are not bad. Same as Musiala's numbers are nowhere near bad. But Musiala, hands down, successful take-ons, much better than Florian Wirtz. Now it starts to even itself out again and starts to actually go towards Wirtz again in progressive carries per 90 minutes. Again, that's moving the ball forward, carrying the ball forward, not necessarily beating a player, but just bringing the ball forward. Progressive carries per 90, just edged out by Florian Wirtz with 5.44 to Musiala's 5.31. Carries into the final third per 90 minutes, though. 4.18 to Florian Wirtz to Musiala's 2.88. So carrying the ball into dangerous areas of the pitch, Wirtz is trumping Musiala. Carries into the penalty area, just edged out by Florian Wirtz again with 1.73 to 1.68. That's the dangerous area of the dribbling, carrying, not necessarily beating a player, because taking on a player is a very unique and very circumstantial moment of the game, which Musiala beats Wirtz. He's better at it. He is better at that particular area of the game. But carrying the ball more frequently is a more common action in a game of football. Definitely. So the fact that Wirtz is quite a distance ahead into the final third and just ahead of Musiala in the carries into the penalty area per 90 minutes. This is a tougher one to call because the take-ons is impressive from Musiala, but missed controls per 90 minutes, just pretty much identical. 0.01 difference between the two. Dispossessed per 90 minutes. Wirtz is a little bit looser with the ball. But those carries and progressive carries into the final third, carries into the penalty area, I've got to give it Wirtz again. It's 4-0. It's 4-0, lads. What are we doing here? It's getting a bit of a beating here. Turned a bit one-sided. And let me tell you right now, I love Musiala. I think it would be a brilliant signing. But Wirtz is statistically, last season at least, quite a distance ahead. And you can comfortably see why Bayer Leverkusen won the league with a player like this in their sides, with putting up numbers like this. Fantastic. Right. Defensive stats. Tackle attempts per 90 minutes. Musiala, 1.78 to 0.96. Tackles won per 90 minutes. Musiala, 1.23 to Wirtz's 0.68, so massively better in that department. Blocks per 90 minute. Block passes, basically. Block shot, block pass, anything like that defensively, getting in the way of the ball. 1.29. Wirtz just edges out Musiala in that one, but interceptions, a big part of the game for me, a big part of winning the ball back. It's up here that interceptions is the defensive know-how, positional awareness. What are the opposition going to do next? Reading the game. Musiala, quite a bit better than Wirtz in that department as well. Interceptions 0.89 to Wirtz's 0.39. Clearances just edging out. I mean, you're not really expecting either of these players to be clearing the ball, but I've given you the stats just to be on the thorough side. 0.17 to 0.12. Ball recoveries per 90 minutes, though, that's just a loose ball, basically. Any sort of loose ball situation collected by the player per 90 minutes. Wirtz edges out Musiala in that one. Aerial duels, Wirtz surprises me because Musiala seems a touch bigger. I don't actually know their two heights specifically, but Musiala on the pitch seems a bit taller, but Musiala's not winning as many aerial duels as Wirtz. And for a player that doesn't tackle as often as Musiala, he's gotten more than double the yellow card, so maybe that's a bit of that. Maybe that's a bit of dissent. But I've got to give it Musiala on this one because there's no way I'm making it a whitewash and making it 5-0 to Wirtz. But it's in the defensive stats, which isn't really why we're signing him, to be honest. It's a very nice addition to his game. It's a bonus to his game, but I think it's fascinating. I really do. But ultimately, Wirtz, statistically, in the 23-24 season, was the better player by a reasonable distance as well in many of the departments, at least, other than the defensive department. But let's have a quickly look at their contract situation. So here's Wirtz, first of all, with a market value of 130 million euros. Contract expires in 2027, so he's got a couple more years to go. before, I mean, the idea that he chose to stay at Bayer Leverkusen to get more tutelage from Xabi Alonso, to me, indicates that he's got his head screwed on. Didn't go for the big flashy move early on in his career, wanted to develop more. That shows a level of intelligence to me, knowing that his career would be better served staying at Bayer Leverkusen, and I respect that. It's commendable. Next year, though, you would think that the big move is on for Florian Wirtz. Jamal Musiala, same market value, 130 million euros. However, his contract expires in 2026. So summer after next, it's go time. It's big go time. With 1 year starting, the next summer transfer window will be 1 year left on his contract. Would that therefore mean Bayern Munich want to cash in? The player himself has openly stated he wants to join a Premier League club. He wants to play Premier League football, having started in Chelsea's academy and played in England before, grew up in England, in fact. So he's very at home in England. Again, that makes more sense for Manchester City to go for Musiala. As much as the stats have favoured Wirtz in this situation, sometimes you just have to accept that that player is not obtainable, and Musiala is obtainable, and it's just the way the cookies crumbled. The timing of this situation, it's very much suits City to go for Musiala much sooner than Wirtz, and much easier, much more affordable. And the knock-on effect of buying Musiala, maybe Florian Wirtz, who seems, because of the Musiala comments about staying in the Premier League, I would suggest that I haven't heard anything from Wirtz wanting to leave at any point. He's been very respectful and seems to be wanting to tie himself to the Bundesliga a little bit more. If we were to sign Musiala, the money that they would get Bayern Munich from Musiala, whether it's less than the 130 million euros, which I think it would be, considering there would be 1 year left on his contract, but they could use that money to go and sign Wirtz and replace Musiala immediately with Wirtz, which would be a shame, and it would definitely strengthen Bayern Munich. They would be almost going a like for like. But one caveat to all of this is if you're getting coached by Pep Guardiola, Musiala's game could go to a whole new other level that we have not seen yet. That's the difference in when you sign for Manchester City. And if you stay in the Bundesliga at Bayern Munich, are you going to get the same tutelage that you would get from a Pep Guardiola? And if Pep Guardiola's even still there, because we're still waiting to hear that contract renewal as well. Fascinating stuff. Can't wait to see how this unfolds. Get in the comments below. Who would you prefer for Manchester City to sign? Jamal Musiala or Florian Wirtz? Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to Typical City, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now, holding up silver.